This is 2OF Entertainment.
Well, good day.
Well, good day to you, Paul.
Yeah.
Exciting week, I think we've got coming up.
Yeah, this week is a very unique week. We're nearing the completion of our the Great Canadian Art Show, which was our celebration of 25 years artists in Canada, and it was a member show. And now we have all the stats, and we have our winning images and people and the artists that we're going to share with people today, so to be able to see the work that won. We'll share some stats with people as to how many people looked at our show and how many people voted, and talk about the two different jury systems that we put in place. So it's, we can contrast those a little bit between the actual jury that juried the best of the show, and then the People's Choice Awards, so which is another way of looking at jurying, and it has its merits, and you have to weigh that out as to what that means, what the general public might be different than what the jury likes.
Do you think that that's more important then? I mean, I know your guests today are the judges, but yeah, I mean, it's the public's wallet. Are they not more important than you guys, or is that what you're going to be telling us?
Well,
about?
we're going to talk about that. That's
Okay.
what we'll talk about. I think we look at things differently from as a general public or an experienced art people adjudicating a show. Two different ways of looking at it. Some have a lot of friends, so you can vote for one person, but it doesn't mean that it's not a good piece of work or that it's the best piece of work. You have dedicated people that think your work is the best, and they want to support you in those situations. So that comes into play as well. But because somebody doesn't get a lot of votes at the other end, doesn't mean it was a bad piece of work. It just means either got lost in the shuffle, and we'll talk about that a little bit. It's a lot of art that we looked at over, and you can't expect everybody to look at everything. So it's how do you put it in front of the eyeballs that people want to look at things. Anyway, let's not talk about that. Anyway, we have two of our jury members with us today.
Yes, I think three. I think Bob's trying to join as well. So I'll bring in Joanna first because she's been on before. Hi, Jo.
Good morning.
Good to speak to you again. Serge, who I don't recall meeting it or having so it's Mr. Richard to you instead. Bring you on, and I see the gentleman here trying to get onto the show, but
I'm trying.
Bob, he's audio only at the moment.
Click on your camera.
So have a great show, guys. I'm sure it's going to be really interesting, and I'll see you at the end, as they say.
See if we can get Bob. Will pop in, I guess, when Bob pops in. Yeah, well, in the meantime, we'll do this, and then Bob will. I really appreciate you guys coming on the show today. I think it's going to be, we're going to celebrating, like I had mentioned in our intro, Artists in Canada. Now it's our 25th year, and I was always wondering how am I going to celebrate? It's a milestone to be an internet business. In an art business, with some steady growth and not a fly by night type of thing. I always wanted something of a good general higher quality show that you knew that you could go there and it would be there. When I clicked the button, there was content, there was stuff there. And I always said that I wanted a system that I would want to be a part of. I tried to build that in the back of my mind, that whatever I put into place is something that I thought I needed as an artist. And so I thought, well, let's open this show up to our members, because they're the ones who support me. They're the ones that support this site. They're the ones, we don't have a lot of advertising on our site that pays for no grants, no funding. It's membership driven. And I've kept the membership like Costco. The hot dog's still $1.50. I've tried to keep the costs down, and because if we have our IT build, and like everybody else, you understand if you've got a website what it costs to maintain those things. So that's my pitch for that. Anyway, it's a celebration. Now I thought, well, it's nice to have a juried show. How are we going to do that? And of course, I've known Joanne for a number of years and her expertise, and Sarah's as well, and your knowledge. And if I can get Bob in here, that'd be great. His knowledge as well. He's having some link-in problems. So I think it's important that we share our knowledge with those who enter these things. And we're trying to figure out what is the importance of doing that. So we have two jury systems. One, the ones that you, Joanne and Serge, are part of, the actual voting and adjudicating a massive show of 314 pieces of work, editing down to a winner. Like, it's really between multimedia, an impossible task most of the time. But then we have the Choice Award, which it really shows what the general public like in a certain way. Anyway, that is the premise of the show, and it ran for about 4 weeks in all. But we did the adjudication in the front end and chose the winners for that. The as far as the People's Choice Awards goes, they ran for 4 weeks. I thought it'd be important to have 4 separate weeks that people could vote for their favorite work or favorite artist, and I have to look at it that way as well. Doesn't mean that it's a good piece of artwork was chosen, but it also means that because you didn't get a lot of votes, doesn't mean it wasn't a good piece of work. You just didn't have enough friends. But I think a lot of it is it's good to see 2 ways of looking at the same subject matter. Joanne, what was your thoughts on the show, like in general?
Well, congratulations, Paul, on this really tremendous show. I thoroughly enjoyed working with Serge, who has his expertise, and Bob, and both the jurors I'd never met before. So
go ahead. Oh, you froze. Well, Joanne froze. Oh dear.
Tremendously exciting, interesting. Actually, the submissions that we looked at, some of them blew my mind.
Yeah, there was some incredible work. Really, your thoughts, Serge, on some of the work?
Same thing. I mean, it was quite a challenge, a sweet challenge. At first, I wasn't sure I was up for it, just because of the amount of work and the amount of pieces, not so much my work to do, but so it was it was a good challenge. Something I've learned, and I'm still learning, and it's always
I give credit to my IT person who over a week he was continually tweaking the system to get it to work better and better for people to find things. And I found that on the online voting is what we did. A lot of it was people aren't used to that. So it's where you think the vote button is when you design it isn't where people look. And if you change the word, we had initially called it a like, and they were looking for the word vote. Little things that you want to do quickly, you want to get in, you want to get out, and you want to go back to your coffee, whatever. You're going to look at some stuff. Well, you can't. 314 pieces of work, there's pages and pages of work to look at. Normally, I used to do some adjudication in physical sense. You can walk around the whole room and get a feeling for the whole show. You don't quite get the same feeling with an online show. Yet you do have the ability to look at things individually on a show where you're looking at work. So two different ways your mind has to think about adjudication. Your thoughts, Joanne, on
Yeah, I think the visuals for the public voting was quite interesting. You presented for, did you present for a week or for a day? I don't remember.
Well, I don't know what you mean.
So like when people were looking at the images and your public face of what people were allowed to see, I thought that the images looked good. They were clear. They were a high resolution. They were quite visually appealing for people to make some decisions. And
boy, she's got a lag. There's Bob.
Hi.
Hi, you're on your phone.
Hi, Bob.
Okay. There we go. We got Bob. You got a lag in your feed, Joanne. There's
Howdy. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. Good. Yeah, we can hear you. We can see you. Yeah, Joanne, you're frozen a lot of times here. I don't know what's going on.
You're in the show. Everyone can see and hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. Your feed is frozen for some reason. Okay, now you're back. Yeah, Bob, welcome. We were just talking about the process that the jurying process that you guys went through, and pulling your hair out and such, that trying to figure out how to sort out 314 pieces of work into, we call, the best of show. Your thoughts, Bob, on that process at all that you went through? Can you hear us, Bob? No, now we got no Bob again.
oh dear.
He was there and he's gone. Anyway, I think we're gonna start up the first graphic, and we'll maybe get David to start that graphic up, and then we'll. So this was the graphic was designed for the first show for 2025, and I think I was trying to get a graphic that was as clear as we can for what we're doing. And we'll just go right to the chase here. So these are the three pieces that the jury has decided. I guess we'd call it the best of the show. It's really difficult to do this process. These are two-dimensional works. They've numbered 1, 2, 3, and I think, boy, I didn't bring I thought I had the names for everybody. In my hindsight, why I didn't do that. But anyway, your thoughts, Bob, on this? Like, let's just talk about them individually. And when I looked at the voting, we had to decide online. When you got together at the end, after looking at all the work, you now had to decide at some point. The three of you decide on which one is the winner. I was really surprised how close you guys really were. You guys were so close to being on the money. Most of these are within what, 1 or 2 votes, Joanne? Like, of your own points?
Yeah. And so, bear in mind that we looked at 312 or 314 submissions, and we were within 1 or 2 points of each other in terms of the top selections. And that almost never happens. I have to say, I've juried lots of shows. I've been miles apart sometimes in jury decisions. So this was a pleasant surprise to see that we were within, a couple of points of each other. That was really a big surprise.
Right. Your thoughts on Sarah? Something on the like that first image, like it's got such a romantic edge about it. It's really amazingly painted. Your thoughts on that? painting?
Yeah, I mean, there was some really good ones. These three, of course, but also the ones that didn't get chosen. They were close, and overall, it was, as I said before, it was a challenge to really hone down on. Went over 2-3 times through those hundreds, 314, and yeah. So, but you had a good marking system, so that was really helpful, and we could go back and tweak it, and yeah.
I was just doing my homework here a little bit better, and the number 1 painting is done by Martin Murphy, and the number 2 painting is done by Janet McKay, and Brian Hoffner did the muskox. So I think the first couple are oil paintings, and I think the pastel is a number 3 painting there. So it's like these were amazing pieces of work. I found 2 were really Canadiana. You know, they really had that feeling. Does any of that resonate with you when you were going through the process? Bob, do you have any comments on some of the work?
Yeah, no, not that specifically. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, not that specifically, but just as Serge said earlier, these 3 really, really stood out. Just as you're going through them, they're ones you just keep going back to, and you know, kind of photorealistic in a way, which isn't necessarily what I'm always looking for either. But they were just so well executed, and emotionally, they had everything. Design-wise, they were right on. You know, so they just kind of captured. Other than the canoe one, which is maybe not as photorealistic as the others, but they just kind of captured. You know, they just moved you, and you just kept going back to them and saying, "Wow, you know, how did they do that?" You know, and when you start asking those questions, you're going, "Okay, yeah, these ones just kind of rose above the crowd." I thought.
Yeah.
And just so people understand the rubric or the scoring system a little bit better. So we had 5 categories, and we had 10 points that could have been accumulated under each category. So composition, a technique, color and value, emotional response. And so it was possible that out of 50, we reached a score, so that these entries, we asked Paul's IT guy to give us only the scores that were 48 out of 50, 48 and above. So what we were really looking at were the best of the best, in our opinion. And the rubric, the scoring system, was quite elaborate. And so we certainly, I think, had a thorough scrutiny of the images that were presented.
Yeah. My IT person did an amazing job. I think for the short time he had to be able to get it tweaked to where we're going. Like I said, next year again we're gonna do something a little keep tweaking it to get it into a different way of not so much different, but maybe simplifying it a little bit and clarifying areas, maybe separating sculpture, say, from 2-dimensional work, giving it its own category, maybe some suggestions about how to present sculpture to the artist before submission. I'm giving artists right now a heads up, a 1-year heads up that this is probably going to happen next year. So get your best artwork together. It's only a member show, so you have to be a member of Artists Canada to join the show, and we'll go from there. So this is Martin Murphy's piece. This is the first choice here, just for people so they can see what we're looking at. It was called Luxury of the Book. I think that the titles resonate with you as well as a juror. Yeah.
For me,
sometimes
yeah. It kind of, I think to me, it puts the context of the artist to the work. It gives me a verbal conversation to go with the physical work that's being produced. Do they belong together? Are we on the same page as a viewer when we're looking for that as a guide? You know, how are you seeing it as the painter relative to how the general public are looking at it as, or the jury, I guess?
Well, in this case, the artist was quite savvy in using the word luxury of the book, because I think the word luxury really drew us in to the painting completely, and it was a luxurious painting in many respects. So I think that the title in this case was apropos, and in fact quite effective, that went with the painting.
Yeah, no, very nice. This is the second choice. Now these ones, you got to look at it. They're probably in 1 point apart or 2 points apart, like in scoring. And it's, at some point, it comes down to different ways. So if 2 out of 3 like the one, and you're trying to decide how, it doesn't mean that, I don't know how, I've always disliked number 1, number 2, gold, silver, bronze way of doing it. But at some point, people like this setting the bar against other artists, or setting a bar for artists, or setting a bar for yourself. The importance of that, Joanne, like when you enter a show, is that what it's about? Is trying to see, how am I fitting with the rest of, say, Canada in the art world? Is that why you enter things like this?
I think it depends on the artist and their point of view. I mean, I do think that entering good juried competitions is important for artists. Yes, to gain recognition and validation, and it's seldom about the prize money involved. Prize money usually isn't that significant that an artist is going for the prize money. I think the artists are going to build their CVs. They're going for recognition with their peers, and also their status with other artists in Canada.
Yeah, I think it's important, especially if, say, you live in a small community. It's not a city, and you're feeling a little bit, I do not, you're out of touch with what's going on in the rest of the world. So the internet has really helped with that. But how do I show my work that I'm doing really good work, but I live in this community that is a dot on the map, and you're in the middle of nowhere, but that doesn't mean you can't produce great work. But it's nice to see what other people are doing across the country. I found that this was kind of a connection piece. That's what this show was. It connected from coast to coast to coast for people to see what other artists are doing and how they see their part of the world. And I'm really, that's what I really like to see in these kind of shows. How do you, as an artist, paint or draw or see? That was my interest in it personally, even though I wasn't part of the jurying process. And then here's Brian's piece. Now I've seen muskox, and they're really funny to watch. They're very inquisitive, and they're not like buffalo that will run you, but you can actually have one of the friends said, hosted a number of them on behalf of the University of Saskatchewan out on their property, and she actually went and played with them. Like, they were just very playful animals. Yet anyway, now
and all three of these pieces that were prize winners are very accomplished, and they show the finesse of the artist to their best advantage. I mean, this painting is, you could certainly, I'm not from the West, but you certainly could appreciate the temperature of what was happening in that piece, and just a tremendously well done, accomplished piece, in my opinion.
Now, am I correct in saying are these bison? Probably.
I think they are bison,
they're
or buffalo. Yeah,
they're bison more so than muskox.
Yeah.
But I've seen muskox. They'll circle like that. They'll be a little pack, and they all come and look at you. But no, you're right. They are bison. I think Brian.
What I liked about this, I think it's a pastel, was the subtlety of not including a lot of information, but still resonating that's what's there, just with the softness in the sky, the snow in the foreground, and just the coldness of it with the the breath coming out, of the bison's kind of nostrils. You can just kind of feel the coldness of this whole thing. So it was just exquisite, in my opinion.
Was.
Could have been first too. So
Yeah, it's a minimum palette as well of color,
mhm.
producing a piece of work like that. Yeah, no, it's gorgeous. It's and I think I'm hoping that other artists are looking at it and say, well, I could maybe do that. That'd be kind of cool, They're just like, anyway, we had another section. So we had so many winners that we thought should be near the top, and we chose 6 more awards of excellence. Again, these ones are probably within a point or two of
Yeah.
the top ones on our first ones, and
Mhm.
these are very well accomplished painters. And I'm grateful that they took the time and thought it valued to enter their work in this show. A lot of times, artists of this superior, I guess, experience, they've been painting for years, and a lot of these guys don't enter shows. Like those guys, they pull back and say, "Oh, well, let somebody else do a show." But I'm really grateful that Dwight from Montreal and Eric from Vancouver produced their work. Realistic but abstract in their own ways as well. So we get some noise in the back. We get some music in the background here. I don't know where that's coming from.
Oh, that's our grandfather's clock. Sorry.
Perfect. Yeah, better than a cell phone, Bob. Better than a cell phone. Anyway, I put these up into 3 sections of 2 paintings side by side, just so we can do a quick commentary on some of the pieces of work and your thoughts. Just speak up as you can. You can start with Joanne a little bit and come down, I guess.
Well, tremendous. And I think that Eric Goldstein's piece is actually incredible. I believe, Serge, you said that it is painted strings on the image. So not only is it visually stunning, it's also incredibly detailed and intricate, and craftsmanship really from the artist. So I was quite struck by that piece as well. If somebody else wants to weigh in on it, go ahead.
I just say one thing. If people want to see larger versions of these paintings, just go to artistsInCanada.com. The link is still there on our homepage, and you can go through and sort by artist, or just scroll through about 16 pages of imagery. But you can, I think, get a coffee and enjoy that journey, I think, and I'll call it that, a journey. And then you can go and look at it. I think some of these are available for sale as well, so you can buy them from the artist as well. Serge, go ahead. Your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, the runner-up, they were great, and they could have been first as well in their own right. Dwight, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correct. Dwight
Baird, yeah.
Yeah. I really like the shadows and the dynamics of the colors in that one. It's just, I know they're not realistic per se, but it conveys the emotion, and it's just, there's
Dwight paints a lot of Cuba, a lot of imageries of Cuba, and I think very much they're very bright palettes of color. I think Bob, you'd said is very, very, very likening, a very good likeness of Cuba. Is that correct?
Yeah. As soon as you see that, you know it's Cuba. It's just, well, because of the colors, the cars, the old retro 50, 60 cars that they've all kind of didn't have access to real cars, so they had to, buy the old ones and paint them up. But yeah, I've been there, and that's just a typical Cuban scene, and just as I say, the palette that he used is just extraordinary. The kind of pastel, high chroma almost, and especially with her dress. Just, she's in the shadows, but she's not in the shadows. So it's design wise, it's impeccable as well.
Yeah, he's an amazing designer. Really forces your eye around where he wants it to go. I think there's a couple more here. Stephen Stromberg and Martin Murphy. Now, Martin, being that he won 2, is an amazing. That's how the jurying, like when you do by numbers, and you can win in 2 sections. Martin painted our number 1 image, but also he painted one called Red, this portrait. So, when you can, it's really nice to see. Bob, you're a portrait painter as well, and can you comment on this portrait?
Yeah, well, yeah, as you said, he did kind of he was up there in both of the point systems, and I didn't even realize it was the same fellow or the same person. But just as I say, doing portraits and the subtlety of his transitions and are just really quite amazing. Just without there's not a lot of high chroma in it, but it just resonates as very, very lifelike. And this is actually quite large, I think, if I remember correctly, because that's one thing that I looked at after is how large. Some of them are 8 by 10s, and some are. And this one, I think, I might be wrong here, but it's like 20 by 30 or 24 by 36 or something. It's fairly large. So
I think it is a large one.
Extraordinary in itself.
Right.
And the sculpture piece, I mean, your point, Paul, is about, we're tasked with coming up with our best choices. But in terms of, say, Susan's work, and how one of the categories was color and value, and how do we assign a score for a piece of sculpture that, that we can't really adjudicate it best. But nonetheless, it's an extremely powerful piece. And I believe this is sitting in an important building somewhere, Paul, is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know the building, but it's in Montreal. Yeah. It's a bench, and it's huge. It's a beautifully carved piece. Susan lives in Montreal, and that's her home, and was from Western Canada. Actually lived in North Battleford, Saskatchewan. That's where she came from. Everybody comes from Saskatchewan, Bob. Everybody knows that.
Not everybody.
Everybody comes from.
It's
funny we talk about that quickly, but when you look at it was amazing because our province stayed the same size, just under 1 million people since the 1900s. We've always had 1 million people, or just under. We're having a bit of a boom now, but all those people came here, then moved away. Like they got educated and everything, and they moved away to other places. And I think there was somebody did a conversation of how we've put people in just about every continent in major science and industry and all things. They came from Saskatchewan at some point. I don't know whether it was the cold weather that they decided to leave, but anyway, probably. I think it was getting a job. I think was part of it in the day as well. Serge, your idea, like you do installation stuff. What do you think about this sculpture? I mean, we're looking at a 2-dimensional piece. You can't walk around this thing, but trying to get your head around this piece.
Yeah, it was the same with Joanne. When, as far as the color, it was. I mean, it's a bronze sculpture, I think. Yes.
No, it's all made out of wood, actually.
Oh, wood. Oh,
and it's baked.
I didn't even know that.
Carved wood. No, it's hard. Like you said, it's hard to determine sometimes the scale of things. But yeah, it could be a little ashtray sitting on a countertop if you make it look like that. But this is actually sitting in a foyer in a building in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But being that you've done sculpture before, and big sculpture, and trying to figure out what it means to do that. I mean, hers was called Life Within a Tree. So it has some meaning just in the title as to you have these six characters that were carved, but they're an actual bench. You can actually sit on this thing. But,
yeah, it speaks about community to me.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And the fact that we sit to and with, it's, I don't know. It's
until you can walk in the room and actually walk around it, but it's a nice sculpture in that you can touch and sit on and be involved with. Not a lot of sculpture you can do that. Public sculpture mostly you can, but other stuff they say, "Oh, don't touch. No, you're going to break that." And it's not this one. Is I think this is our third sec. This is our last batch of 6. Wayne Fisher, photographer, and Bridget Aiken, abstract painting. So, comments? You got a little bit of something on our.
Well, I think our task as jurors was to be sensitive to the fact that we were certainly trying to show and award all mediums, not just visual paintings. I think from my point of view, I was very sensitive to the fact that we wanted to show our appreciation for those artists that were perhaps sculptors or photographers. So in Wayne's case, I believe he submitted two that were very similar, and both of them were striking and super stunning, black and white, just exceptional. So I think in this case, Paul, it was a testament to your call to not limit it in any way, shape, or form. We were simply looking for work that was from artists across the country. I don't know either of these artists, but again, Bridget's work was just one of those pieces that immediately drew me in. The coloring in this piece was exquisite. I don't know how big this piece is, but
It's big. I think
it's big, right? And very exotic. I mean, Passage to India, very, very exotic. I would love to have a piece like this in my home. It's quite appealing to me, actually. So that was my thought.
Yeah, I think this one's 40 by 60 or even bigger than that. I think it's she paints large. Bob, a little bit about
well,
that?
yeah. And the toughest thing probably to judge is the abstracts. And as an abstract painter, I know how difficult they are. I don't think people understand that. I think portraits are easy compared to, compared to abstracts, because it's all coming from your mind, or it's coming from your imagination, or it's coming from life experiences, and then there's the technique of getting all those colors on and when to stop, and it's just this is an extraordinary piece just because it hits the mark on everything. So congratulations to her and to Wayne Fisher. I say design wise, really, really, really good. Just it's simple, but it makes you really kind of almost come into the kaleidoscope, design wise. So yeah, both really good.
I think you raise a good point, Bob, in that when we're trying to sort through and judge abstraction, it really comes down to that emotional response that we have. So my emotional response is X, that I feel quite captivated by the painting. And usually in a lot of art competitions, there's a lot of abstraction. And really, how do you measure what you understand about the piece beyond the sort of the technical aspects of the piece? Is it balanced? Is it harmonious? Is the artist filling the space effectively rather than filling the space just because they want to fill the space? So I think that abstraction is a tough nut to crack. And from what I can see, judging a lot of shows, many artists are choosing abstraction for whatever reason as their preferred genre.
Yeah, I think when you look at the work of Bridget Aiken, I can walk through a room and pick her work out. Doesn't matter what abstract she does, and all of them are different, but they look the same. They all come from the same artist. Other abstract artists, they bounce all over the place. Some days they're a Pollock, the next day there's something else, right? They spitter, spatter, splatter, But when you look at the sophistication of people that have been painting for a long time, and she has a look and a feeling how she does her work, whether she draws her animals that are, she likes drawing horses and cows and different things, but they aren't. They're almost like drawings on a cave wall at times. That's kind of the feeling, but you still know it's her work. I think it's really important to have that that signature look, but you don't have to put your name on the bottom of it. You really don't. At some point, you say, well, that's Bridget's work. If you knew her, who she was. But some artists that just put their initials on their painting. They don't write their whole name on. They just get known for that, if that's what they want to do. I think they write on the back, information on the back of the stretcher or on the canvas. But I think we'll just move on. So our People's Choice Award. There's some stats. You can believe it. Now, Mary Louise Scapazzi, I kept trying to pronounce the name, Scapazzi. She blew everybody away. I couldn't believe how many votes this girl got. So people liked her work, and her friends really like it. It is a beautiful piece of work, and I give them credit for that. It is a very nice piece of work. So we just go through the numbers. 5,448 votes were registered. That's amazing. Over 4 weeks, to have that many people dedicated to help and vote and get their opinion. That's what it's really about. You know, they were anonymous voting. You didn't know who it was. It was only by IP address. 4 separate voting sessions, one for each week, so you could vote. We gave you 3 votes. You could only vote once per image. So it looks like we got 2,560 unique voters. So basically, they only used 2 of their 3 votes. That's what that kind of tells me. They voted for the one that they wanted. They didn't spend the other vote on something else. We had 4 weeks of voting. Yeah, they were, like I said, 3 anonymous votes per week. It was then it started over again the second week, and then we started over. Then we tallied them all up at the end on the 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, so it was 4 weeks. So you couldn't see what the artists really were accumulating in the front end. It was like a fresh vote each Monday. 314 images, and we shuffled the pages a bit more as we moved through, trying to move page 16 so people could see that as often as they see the other ones. And then we realized we needed to do a drop down for people to search for the artist that they wanted to vote for. So we created an alphabetical drop down. So that made it easier for people to find the artist that they were looking for, specifically to vote for. So all those little tweaks that we added as we moved along, I think, helped me receive less emails about issues, and I fielded those as best I could. But I think we did it kind of in as fair a way as we could. I think that's what fairness is really about what a lot of this was about. Again, these were excellent pieces of work, and they were probably only points out of the jury's voting. The actual, your voting that you voted for. You look at the votes. This is the second place and third place for the People's Choice. So Audrey Coleman and Anna Marie Dickinson. They're both beautiful pieces of work. Bob, I'm gonna go back. Your comment on that piece that the general public like?
On this one, I prefer the other 2, but the landscape one is, it's well done. I've done similar to this, but I like the other 2. I think I would have scored a little higher, which I did, I think so. But this is a competent piece.
In terms of originality, if this was in taken into consideration, I mean, many times we've seen this image of look up, look away up. So I think that I can understand why people would have perhaps responded to this who maybe don't look at art every day. But for some of us who do look at art every day, I think there would have been, a challenge for me to score this in terms of an original, thoughtful work of art.
Yeah, I think certain things, criteria that the general public don't use, that you use, right? They've been asked by their friend to vote for them. They look at it and say, "Yeah, I'll put my name on that one. Yeah, that's good enough. It's good enough." They didn't really, a lot of times it's choosing. It's different when you choose a painting on your own without being prompted to, can you vote for me or one of my friends or somebody in this contest? And being asked that is, that's a big ask. to ask your friends to do. I really, it's like asking your friends to be at your opening, right? It's those things. It's just nice to say when they show up. It's kind of nice. Anyway, here's the other two, and I do, and like I personally, I like these as well. Yeah, they're
these are very, very competent pieces, and I scored them quite high as well.
yeah.
What surprised you, Paul, about the People's Choice Awards?
I don't know about surprise. I think it's a learning process of how do you give the tools to a general public so they understand the process that you guys have to go through. Like, yeah, it's always easy to pick something, and then you realize it's really not that easy to go and do this process. Says, well, that picture's better than this other one, but those things are usually all based on your life experience, right? Your likes and dislikes are based on that. And I, as over the years, have been a proponent of trying to buy work or look at work that moves me a little bit, agitates me, makes me want to think. Maybe I'll grow into liking it. Abstract was like that with me from the very, very beginning. Early days was like, oh, maybe, yeah. Now I've grown to really like it, but it's like understanding what is good abstract for me, right? Because everybody likes something different. And I think, thank goodness for that, because there'd be a lot of artwork laying around somewhere else that if somebody only liked one or two types of artwork.
Can we talk about jurors' bias, and how we feel about jurors' bias and how we try and get around it? Can you guys comment on that?
Go ahead, Serge.
Oh yeah, sure. It's always a challenge to be as objective as possible. And for me, I tend to look at composition first. That's my own process. I tend to look at that first, and then I look at technique, and then I look at details like in the technique. I really enjoyed the, just a parenthesis, I really enjoyed the fact that we could enlarge these photos, these images, so we can see the brush quality, the quality of the brush. And you can almost sense when there was time taken and effort. So to me, it's more, yeah, there's a sense of, oh, I like that one right away, that kind of thing. But then I need to step back and say, okay, from my perspective of what I find appeals to me, emotionally speaking, what else can I dig into and find and go find and perhaps study? It's a short time, of course, because of the amount of work that's there. But in a general sense, that's how I go about it, and perhaps others too. I don't know. But
I really appreciate the time that you guys spent doing this. I mean, I realize it does take time out of your day and doing those things. I mean, many, many hours. People don't realize when you filter it down until you get down to the top. I think we did what, top 10 on a trip with top 10. And from that point, we saw how the top 10 laid out, and you guys are on the money. I mean, you guys were within one or two, the same images showed up in almost the same spots. So that resonates really well, that not only the work stood out and it was justified being where it was chosen to be. Did that surprise you, Joanne? Or you've been in a lot of these before.
Totally. I was shocked. As I said, I thought it was going to be a whole day process with us back and forth, and defending your decisions and trying to muscle through a lot of images. So I have to say, and I'm not lying when I say I was shocked with the results, the scoring results. And I think that Paul, that you chose well with the three of us, each coming from a different point of view, and still understanding competency and all of the things that go into making a great painting. It wasn't easy. I know that all of us spent hours and hours doing this willingly and happily, but it was a great surprise that we were so close in so many of our decisions.
Right. No, again, I do appreciate it. And for people out there understanding that, Joanne, you're a great supporter of Artists in Canada, and I am so grateful to have you in my corner. For a lot of things, we have and still do refer artists who have questions about their own careers. And you know what? Art groups, contact Joanne. I mean, she can give you a great Zoom session or come in person and talk to your group. You want to fly her to Vancouver? She'll go to Vancouver. I'm sure she will in February.
Yeah.
But Joanne being in Guelph, Ontario, and Serge being in New Brunswick, and Bob in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I think it's really nice to have people from different parts of the country as part of what we're doing. I think that's always been a goal, is to have a platform that we can all communicate through, and Artists in Canada is going to continue doing that. We keep adding new things for our membership. We will be having another show, probably. I don't know if it's going to be a spring show or might be a fall show again, just depends on my time. And people giving time for people to do some new work. We want to see some new work and thinking about how our process is going. So do you have suggestions, Joanne, a little bit about maybe what people should think about for the new year, for doing something?
Well, I mean, I was quite stuck on the sculptors, and I think I messaged you very early in the scoring. I didn't quite know how to handle them, and I think the suggestion would be to separate them out, possibly for next time. The draw that you got from this competition was exceptional, and maybe people don't know that you had a Venice Biennale winner in the competition. There was a high level of interest and support for this competition, and it will be interesting to see if you go forward with this competition again. The word is out now that it was a great competition. The caliber of the work was exceptional, and I think that, and hopefully this is a driving force for people out there, artists out there, to say, hey, you know what, this is a great competition, and give it your best shot, and don't throw in work that is an afterthought. The competition closes on September the 15th, and September the 14th you take a look around at your studio and you fire something into the competition. I think people need to understand that this competition was extremely high caliber, and that make damn sure that you're putting good work in, because it's going to be scored fairly by three professionals who've seen a lot of artwork.
Yeah, we appreciate that, Joanne. I think it's the understanding of, we're trying to, I guess, raise the bar as high as we can. I think it's important for artists to see what other people are doing. So if you say you paint realistically and you want to learn more about that, isn't it good to see how other ones are painting and doing that kind of work? It kind of puts you and say, oh, I have more to learn, or where am I on that scale, or do I want to even, like, who knows? But I know a lot of people held back. Only about, not everybody in our membership joined in, maybe because they didn't have work that they thought, it was on the shelf, and they didn't want to, just like you said, drag it out the night before and put it on. But I think I had a lot of, actually I had a few, maybe half a dozen emails from artists. They actually thank me for having the show on, like for producing the show. And I appreciate those thank yous. It's one of those things that, am I on the right page as well? Am I doing the right thing for artists as well? And I think there's no sense doing things that nobody wants to be a part of. I think it's just, I don't know. My thoughts on it.
Well,
Serge?
Paul, you're a great champion. I mean, let's face it, you're a great, hardworking, enthusiastic, supportive champion for artists in Canada. And thank heavens, we have you to encourage artists to continue on and have hope to continue to do great work.
No, you got me blushing now and everything.
Well, it's true. It's true.
Attaboy.
I appreciate the kind words and your support. And do you have any closing remarks? We gotta close our Bob. Any kind of closing remarks?
Yeah, I thought it was a great experience. Next year, my suggestions might be, and this is for debate, obviously, is maybe different categories, because there was quite a wide range of quality of art. So I don't know if there's a professional area and an emerging artist or something like that. I think I would consider, because I think this was a bit of a an experiment for you and even some of the artists that submitted. Not sure what kind of caliber there is out there, and for them to be to go against a professional artist that's been doing it for 30 years and just starting. Maybe that's just something I would kind of look at for maybe next year.
Yeah, it can be kind of intimidating that way, but
Yeah.
That's raising the bar. So do you give an award for an emerging artist award? You're right, maybe, and then something for the professional artist. Trying to move into that category. But Serge, you got a comment?
I think there's something to be said about young artists or others that know they don't have perhaps the experience or how can I say, I don't want to say they don't have the talent, but because there's a lot of pieces that were weak in some areas, but they were strong in others. And I think it would be important that they're not, they don't discourage themselves to not put it, because showing your work winning is great, and it's gratifying, and it's helpful for the artist's career. But even those that need to start somewhere, it's good for anybody, I think, to remind ourselves that any work, in my opinion, is in a way good work, because it speaks, it tells the story, and it tells their story, and to me that's just as important as the winners. Anyway, but that's my take. Yeah.
I do. The artists, there's 150 plus artists that came in the show, and if you do want to reach out to Joanne, and I'm sure she could talk to you about your pieces of work that you entered as part of a counseling, and I think it's important sometimes to have a perspective outside of your own self looking at your work, or your mom or your wife or your kids. Kids are really good. They're a good resonator. You bounce that off them. If it goes with kids, you're hitting it. But I'm just saying, reach out to Joanne professionally and on a personal one-on-ones for her.
And I do think, and I have had some artists that have contacted me, Paul. Thank you. But I do think it's important for artists to grow and develop in competitions like this. And so if I did have an artist that contacted me and said, give me your opinion, my strategy is this, that I try and pick 3 good points in the painting. So what worked, and then I will perhaps, if there are things that, are less competent, I would say, but you've got this area here which could possibly have been different. And so I'm trying to not crush a spirit, and I am sensitive to the fact that artists do need some positive support. On the other hand, the reality is you have to kind of put on your big boy pants and say, okay, here's a professional looking at this. Perhaps I could have could have done this better. And you know what? In many instances, the artist already knows what they could have done better. But for whatever reason, they've decided not to change the painting. But you know, I don't want to crush a spirit. I do want artists to be appreciative of the courage to enter into big competitions like this.
I think it's also important that accomplished artists sometimes they get lost on their trail, on the journey as to where they are in their career, and maybe it's waning, things aren't quite happening. Sometimes a little conversation for an hour with a professional will get you back on track again, and find the mojo that you need to get back going. And sometimes it's just a little mental block, or it's maybe that marketing aspect, or maybe you got a gallery issue, or you need to, talk to somebody privately and personally about stuff like that. That's why I say, don't call me, call Joanne. Call Joanne's
Yes,
the one.
Joanne. Don't call Serge and I.
Yeah. What do you call
Oh,
me?
come on, guys. Come on.
You can call me.
You can call me. Yeah. Well, there you go. And your links are still on our website, so people can see contact them through their website. Again, I want to thank you guys so very much for all your help in celebrating our 25 years and getting this stuff up and running. And you've got me going again. Now I want to do this again. But I'm still concluding some of the things. I'm trying to get the award certificates mailed out, and some of the final payouts to people. On this one, it was no charge to come in on this one, on this show. And I give every member that joined, I gave them a small little thank you, and every member will get one of those. And I believe in that you took a little bit of time to enter the show. I'll give you a little bit of my time back. Anyway, thank you again very much for all your participation and everything. And I wish you guys the best for the year. And we will talk and get painting again. You got to do some more sculpture there, Serge. Get some installations going. Like to see that. Thanks, Joanne. And you stay active and hang.
That's not my problem to stay active.
You're a busy girl. I know that. Anyway, thanks again. And we'll have David sign us off here. And you guys stay around for 2 seconds and we'll have a quick chat. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.